Everybody. In the last session, we discovered about how the solar power system can be sized on the basis of different balance of systems and what are the different kinds of components, what are the different kinds of rating that we use to have a built up solar power system. Now in this module we will focus upon the regulatory and policy scenario of renewable energy. What are the different kinds of initiatives that government is taking up to boost up this renewable energy sector. So before starting our session, I'll just brief you about our Neutrino Energy Private Limited, our organization. We are a multidisciplinary organization which provides renewable energy capacity building, CSR advisory and implementation, renewable energy service. Our main motto is sustainable energy for all. The whole scenario behind our whole work is Go Renewables. Your neighbors would think you did it for environment, but you know that you did it to save money. Some of our awards and recognition from Harvard University, Young Leaders Debate from Mazda, Nudge Global Leadership Challenge, Climate Reality Project, Ministry of Gender Equality and Youth Affairs, and the Waka Waka, a solar initiative taken by Netherlands private organization in West Africa. So what do you mean by regulation? So if you want to define regulation, it is a principle or a rule with or without coercive power of law. That means it doesn't have that kind of a power of law. I mean, it may have or it may not have that kind of power of law. Employed in controlling, directing or managing an activity, organization or a system. So basically it is a principle or rule developed to manage, control or to direct any kind of activity or organization in or a system. So this is all about the regulation. So if I want to talk about a regulation example, if suppose if you want to drive a car, you need to have a license. But before taking a license, you need to go through certain processes. That is the kind of a regulation developed by Transport Ministry. So it is nothing but a rule based on and mean to carry out specific piece of legislation, such as for the protection of environment. Regulations are enforced usually by regulatory agency formed or mandated to carry out the purpose or provisions or legislation. It is also called a regulatory requirement. So there must be a regulatory agency who can set up the regulations and you have to obligate that regulations in order to perform any activity. So this is all about regulation. So what do you mean by policy? Policy is a view which is taken by an organization or a government on particular subject or issues. If suppose I wanted to analyze what are the different kind of problems that the automobile industry is facing, then government may come up with a policy that okay, we will provide tax incentives for automobile industry. So this is the kind of policy initiative that is taken by the government. So that is kind of an example that I'm quoting to you. So normally policy statements will usually set out what the issue is, that is what is the kind of a problem and what needs to be done, and it also contains a set of recommendations for actions. So in a nutshell, laws, rules, regulations, guidelines, principle, directions, these are all the policy measures. So it mainly captures what is to be done, who is to do it and how it has to be done. So this is all about the policy. If you want to get the answers for this question, you need to develop a policy. So now the policy will be on a different type: personal policy, private organization policy, public policy. So it has a different kind of a categories. So this is all about the policy. Now we will, as we are more talking about the solar energy sector, we will talk more about the energy sector. So how it is basically working about. So there is a Ministry of Power, which is a main body for controlling all the energy power activities basically. Then under that they have National Thermal Power Corporation, which normally takes care of thermal power generation. Vidyut Vyapar Nigam Limited, which normally takes care of the power to be generated from NTPC and selling it to the distribution company. Then we have the Central Electricity Regulatory Commission, which is a regulating body for power sector, and this is all about the on the the government and the regulation side. It is like higher side of it. You can consider it as a parent, and for this parent, the child is like under Ministry of Power there will be Ministry of New and Renewable Energy, which is taking care of all the activities related to solar, wind, biogas, and then the other hydro power plants. Under that we have Indian Renewable Energy Development Agency, which we call it as IREDA, which is a kind of a financial bank which is mainly focused on solar energy financing, wind energy financing, hydro energy financing. Then we have Solar Energy Corporation of India, which is a kind of a right hand for MNRE, which normally assists MNRE in executing the solar power missions, wind power missions, which has been developed for the country for development of renewable energy. Then CEA is a kind of a technical arm for Ministry of Power, which normally sets out technical regulations for ministries in power sector. State Electricity Regulatory Commission, like the central has one electricity regulation. So in states they have the separate electricity regulations and normally regulated by the Central Electricity Regulatory Commission. So this is all about the institutional framework of Central Power Organization. So how does it work? So we have already developed that there will be a state government and there will be a state electricity regulatory commission, which normally regulates all the regulations. Then we have Ministry or Department of Power and the state government. Then we have the State Electricity Inspection Organization, which normally takes care of inspection activities. And then we have the state electricity board, like distribution companies, which normally distributes power, transmission companies, which normally transmits power from the generating stations to distribution companies. Then we have private sector licenses, which normally also takes care of distribution activities for certain states in India. Though we have certain states in India where they have the private licenses for electricity distribution, but there are certain states in India where they have the governmental electricity distribution companies. We talked about more about institutional framework, policies and regulation. Let's talk more about what are the different kinds of renewable policy evolved and regulations evolved over the period of time. So talking about the framework, there is a 100 gigawatt mission developed by Ministry of New and Renewable Energy by 2022. That means 100 gigawatt will be installed by 2022 in the solar sector. So when this mission was developed, and it was developed in 2015, where they have defined basically two categories. The first category was the rooftop category, wherein the 40 gigawatt of a rooftop category will be installed. And there will be category 2 was large scale projects, which is like inside the solar park. Solar park will be developed across various states with a capacity of 20 gigawatt. And another 40 gigawatt will be developed in outside solar park, that is 40 megawatt. And how what is the plan that is derived was this much. 2015 and 16 it is almost 7 gigawatt, but we almost around achieved 5 gigawatt, like 2 gigawatt we are short of this financial year. And we have next year like 17 gigawatt, then we have next year 32 gigawatt, and this is a kind of a cumulative capacity that will gets added every year, and by the end of the 2022 it will be like 100 gigawatt. In order to get this kind of a potential, the 6,000 billion INR investment will be needed, and in order to get this kind of a projects feasible, we need at least 150.5 billion INR as a subsidy from the government. So what is the kind of a policy and regulatory framework, how it has been evolved in a various manner. So in 2003 Electricity Act was redefined by the government in order to bring more competition into the electricity. So I'll be talking more about the renewable energy sector. So it normally talked about how can we promote RE by ensuring renewable energy, by ensuring grid connectivity and sale of RE. So the central government also developed a national policy for optimal utilization of resources, including renewable energy. Then there was a concern which was raised during that Electricity Act, that the distribution company of the state has to purchase minimum amount of solar energy, and which they call it as renewable purchase obligation, that is X percentage of solar energy must be brought from the solar generators. And there was also a mechanism developed for the tariff for the promotion of renewable energy. Then there was another redefinement was developed in 2005 in the form of National Electricity Policy. So it normally focused on the private participation in renewable energy sector. Then again, the capital cost was very much high in 2003 for renewable energy. Now, then they focused on the how can we reduce the capital cost of renewable energy through competition, and they also mentioned that they have to specify appropriate tariffs for promotion of renewable energy. So they had a FIT, that is feed-in tariff, that is a very much good amount of tariff as compared to conventional energy tariffs, and which normally looked after long-term purchase of solar energy, and they also specified the targets for renewable energy. We looked after the Electricity Act in 2003 and National Electricity Policy in 2005. The next step was National Tariff Policy, which was derived in 2006. So again, minimum percentage of procurement of solar energy should be applicable in 2000, made applicable in 2006. Then there was a preferential tariff to enable and to empower the renewable energy technologies, which was a kind of a good mechanism developed by State Electricity Regulatory Commission. Then there was also a mechanism developed for promotion of renewable energy, that the distribution company or the state electricity distribution company should purchase the solar power through competitive biddings, so that the developers can offer a best price through that kind of a competitive bidding mechanism. In 2008, there was a major step was taken, and that was National Action Plan for Climate Change, and it was one of the good mechanism developed for that a dynamic minimum renewable energy purchase standard, that every year one needs to purchase the renewable energy share as a kind of obligations, and then the targets were defined for each of the states and each of the distribution company, how their targets will be achieved. Then again, National Action Plan has also set the target of 5% renewable energy purchase for 2010, with an increase of 1% target in each year, like 5% in 2010 and then almost 15% by 2020. So, and we are almost achieving that target, like we have like 12% of renewable energy capacity at this instant, and we are almost 4 years past than the current target, and we are at 12%, which is like 1% more than the supposed to be target. REC mechanism was developed to promote again the REC mechanism is nothing but a renewable energy certificate which can be generated with a 1 unit of renewable energy can be generated when you generate 1 unit of renewable energy, and that can be added as an extra income for the solar energy developer by trading it on a exchange platform. So that is again another additional income to promote the renewable energy, which was developed in 2010. And that was also one of the reasons to meet the renewable purchase obligation for various states. One of the biggest milestone that was developed in Indian solar industry is Jawaharlal Nehru's National Solar Mission. So what is this mission is? It's a global initiative in promotion of solar energy technologies announced by the Government of India under National Action Plan on Climate Change. And what is this mission? To achieve the grid tariff parity by 2020 through, what do you mean by grid tariff parity is like meeting, like when in 2022, when you want to purchase a power, the tariff of conventional energy and tariff of renewable energy will be same. Rather, I would say the tariff of renewable energy will be less than tariff of conventional energy. So what are the different kinds of mechanism that needs to be applied for that? So one of the good thing is large scale utilization, rapid diffusion and deployments of solar technology across the country at a scale which leads to cost reduction. Then R&D, of course, it's one of the major contributing factor, research and development, local manufacturing and support infrastructure. What was the JNSM roadmap, like Jawaharlal Nehru National Solar Mission roadmap? So there were 3 phases which has been developed. Phase 1, in the phase 1 there was like 1 gigawatt of a capacity in grid connected, and rooftop was 100 megawatt. Grid connected solar in 2013 to 17 was 10 gigawatt, and cumulative target was like 4 gigawatt. In 2022, 20 gigawatt, but now it has been revised to from 20 gigawatt to 100 gigawatt, almost 5-fold. Look at the potential that India is receiving. For off-grid, 200 megawatt in 2013, 217 1 gigawatt, 222, 2 gigawatt. And solar collectors, which was like to more have the concentrated solar plate collectors by 2022, 20 million square meters of course. And that is a kind of a huge potential that India has got. What are the different kinds of fiscal incentives that has been provided by the Indian Renewable Agency? So we have the 100% foreign direct investment, like any foreign investor can participate easily in renewable energy development, and that can be invest 100% of FDI. Of course, one of the good taxation measure, customs and excise duty almost zero on sales, modules and many raw material and grid power projects. 5% customs and excise duty on other raw materials and components, which will be of course less than the conventional ones. Tax holidays, of course, 10 years of tax holiday, which is one of the good example for good example has been said for solar energy. 80% accelerated depreciation in the first year, like you can actually get the tax benefit of almost 80% in the first year. Like if suppose you are earning 100 rupees through solar energy, you don't have to pay tax on 80 rupees, you just have to pay tax on 20 rupees. And again, grant for carrying out R&D activities and technology validation projects. So what are the different kinds of support mechanism that has been developed in India? Like first one is the feed-in tariff. The good tariffs for long-term power procurements, which normally acts as one of the biggest driving factor for solar energy. 80% accelerated depreciation. That means you can save at least 80% of the tax through this kind of a mechanism. Renewable purchase obligation, one of the good mechanism developed in national tariff policy to obligate the purchase of renewable energy to distribution companies. Exemption of taxes and custom duties and excise duties, which was one of the good mechanism to drive it. And of course, there is a high demand supply energy gap. So in order to fill that gap, renewable energy acts as a good kind of a potential. There are lots of states has derived with good policies, with good incentives, with good schemes, and this has been benefiting a lot to the solar project developer, and which has almost direct impact on the solar project investments. Different policy drivers which we have already discussed. First is accelerated depreciation, 80% of the tax benefit that you can earn in the first year of operation. That means if you are earning 100 rupees, 80% will be for 80 rupees. You will not have to procure or pay any tax. You just have to pay 20 tax on 20%. Generation based incentive, if you generate more than what is expected, you will get a generation based incentive of almost 0.5 rupees per unit, which was the earlier mechanism. Now the government has stopped this kind of incentive, but there has been an alternative mechanism for generation based incentive that has been developed from the developer's end. If the developer gives any contract to the any kind of a contractor, if it is complete, if it is completed within the time bound, then there will be an incentive attached to it, and the government also provides for the early development of the project. Feed-in tariff is a policy initiative which is to encourage investment in renewable energy technology, and it normally offers long-term contracts or power purchase agreements at a fixed tariff, which normally runs for 25 years. Capital subsidy, there has been a capital subsidy of around 30% capital subsidy. Earlier it was applicable for all the kind of developments, but now it is applicable only for the priority sector such as hospitals, schools, government buildings, and in the rural there has been again one of the good capital subsidy available of around 90%. Income tax holiday, one of the good and one of the biggest benefit of solar energy. You can get 10 years of income tax holiday. You don't have to pay any income tax for the first 10 years of your operation. So these are the kind of policy drivers which are currently driving India's renewable energy growth. Other one of the good mechanism like renewable energy purchase obligations, there has been a specific RPOs has been set in 2013, 0.25% in phase 1 and to increase to 3% by 2022. So that was one of the good, that every distribution company has a mandate to purchase some kind of a renewable energy from developers. REC mechanism, renewable energy certificate mechanism, for every unit generated from the solar energy can generate 1 unit of renewable energy certificate, which can traded on a platform, and which can act as an additional incentive, additional source of income for the project developers. State specific solar policies has been developed across almost all states, and there has been a good kind of a jump in solar energy development. There has been state-wise renewable purchase obligations orders by regulators, and which is kind of impacting that very much in solar energy development. And now again, one of the good initiative that there has been an exemption from environmental clearance like pollution control board. You need not have to apply pollution control board when you are installing a solar power plant, as it is a green power plant. But there are some states as in where we need to apply for a pollution control board for solar energy power project development. So these are the kind of a policy related developments that has been happening in India, and we almost confidence that we will achieve the target of 100 gigawatt by 2022. So we ended this session. We will be coming back with a new session along with the more details. So till then, tuned into egreenacademy.com, and don't forget to print your certificate at the end of this course. Thank you very much.